Okay, morning, boys. This is a health and safety unit. This is for your engineering. This is for your qualification in your BTEC. So, what we're going to look at is health and safety in engineering, and this is learning name A. Just need to complete this by putting your name in here. If I go to present, it might be easier for you to see. So, these are the criteria. This is what you need to do. We're going to explain today, or try to explain today, the accident and emergency procedure in an engineering workplace. We're going to base this on our school workshops, but we're going to try and avoid as much as possible calling it the school workshop. We'll call it Lewis Engineering. Okay. You need to explain how the accident and emergency procedures are used in the workplace or in the workshop. Outline the roles and responsibilities of yourself and others, and the legislation and policy in place to keep people safe in the engineering workshop. This is all about your health and safety unit. Okay, this is for Unit 3. Then they're the two pass criteria in this assignment. Then you've got merit and you've got distinction, right? We'll just focus on the pass ones in this video. This is your scenario. You've just become health and safety officer in a local engineering company, Lewis Engineering. This specializes in the manufacture of large drums for printing presses. Okay, the scenario is just to give you a rough outline, an example of where you will be working and what you need to base your study on. Previously, you've worked in a large modern steel manufacturing plant, so your first task as your team leader wants you to investigate whether the company's accident and emergency and health and safety policies and procedures are up to modern standards. So you need to do some research via the internet, and you need to find out what the emergency procedures, health and safety legislation and policies are. Okay, you need to research those. You should use methods that will get the health and safety message across to other employees. Okay, I'm not going to spend too long talking to you about this, and I'm going to go through and then I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Okay, produce a presentation that provides details about the specific accident emergency procedures and the actions to be followed in response to a fire. So we're specifically looking here at a fire in the engineering workshop. If a fire broke out in the engineering workshop, what needs to happen? There's a lot that happens in school when that fire alarm rings, but the procedures are very, very similar to that of an engineering workshop. Okay, this is caused by a machine tool overheating. Ensure that you make it clear as to why it's important to follow these accident emergency procedures. In your presentation, you need to cover the following: the identification of appropriately qualified persons, i.e. first aiders. In school, if you have an accident or if you have a bump and you get sent to the first aid room, a dedicated first aider will come and see you. And we also have a fire warden. Now, we've got a fire warden per block in our building. That could either be myself or Mr. Watkins. I think on the doors of the rooms, it's all labelled up as me. But if I'm not there, then Mr. Watkins does exactly the same thing. Okay. The use of fire extinguishers and the types and their applications. Now, in and around the building, you'll see different boxes. They've got fire extinguishers in them. Generally, they're water. In our computer room, though, you cannot obviously use water on a computer. If it's still plugged into the mains, you're going to do more damage. You're going to cause more problems for yourself. You're going to have electrical fire. You cannot use water on it. So there are different types of chemical and powder and wet foam that you can use to extinguish a fire. You need to investigate and you need to research those, get me images, tell me what they're used for and their limitations. Okay, how a fire alarm would be raised. So clearly you know that there are call points on the walls. They're red, and if you hit those, the fire alarm sounds. There are also smoke detectors and heat detectors in every room. Okay, the evacuation procedure, what the fire alarm sounds like. What does it sound like? You know that. The evacuation procedure, so where you go, what you do, escape routes and muster points. Now, escape routes are fire doors and doors exiting the building. Muster points are assembly points, so where you line up to have your register taken. There are different areas of lineup for different pupils, okay? And those routes, location provision of first aid. So where is the first aid held? I'll go through that with you now on the PowerPoint because some of you might not know that. And routines for reporting the fire, any possible changes to the accident emergency document following the incident. So is the contents of the document fit for purpose? Okay, so let's go through that in the PowerPoint. Don't worry about that. Identification of qualified person. So you need to look up who those people are, okay? What their roles are, sorry, not who those people are. You need to identify the qualified person. In our case, in our school, in Lewis Engineering, our dedicated first aiders are Mr. Vaughan, Mr. Blackford, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. D. Williams, Mrs. Deb Williams in science, and Mrs. Pam Williams in science. And I think that's it. Okay, if there's any more, I'll get back to you on that. And our fire warden is per block. So in Lewis Engineering, you could put myself down or you could put Mr. Watkins down. Okay. The other one, our health and safety officer, is Mrs. D. Williams. Okay, so they are the qualified people. This is that table for you to fill in with the use of fire extinguishers. So you need an image, you need a type, what it can be used on. Now, limitations will be what it cannot be used on. Okay, what it should not be used on. Raising the alarm and evacuation procedure. This is how it's done. So on this slide here, you will add how you raise the alarm and the evacuation procedure to follow that. What happens when that alarm is pressed, okay? Now, this is the escape route. I'm hoping that you can see my mouse on here as well, okay? So if I have a pointer. This is our main hall here. This is our main entrance, okay? These are our staff offices. Within that staff office, this is the doorway to the offices, and then this here is the first aid room. So if you ever look in, you need to label that first aid room up. So this is the main entrance. There's an exit from the hall there. There's an exit from the hall there. And this silly little exit here is the one at the back of the stage. Okay, it's the one that's about 3 foot in the air. Stupid. You've got your canteen exits there. Now, the main ones that you're looking for here will be the stairwell exit there. You've got an exit out the bottom door of science there. You've got an exit from the ground floor social hub here. You've got an exit onto the year 7 yard there. These all need to be labelled up as fire exits. Okay? You need to label them up on this map. This here, this area that I'm circling out, is our engineering department. This is Lewis Engineering. So you will have an exit here and an exit here, fire exit here through the workshop. There is also the sports hall here, and you know in the sports hall you've got an exit there, 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 and there. Okay, you've also got the main entrance and exit onto the tennis courts area there. Okay, so you guys need to label this map up and label all of the exits. Okay, this is that map in from Google Images or from Google Maps or whatever. Okay, now on here, what you need to do, this is assembly points or muster points. Okay, you guys know that this is the main yard. 7, 8, 9 assembly points there. Staff and sixth form assembly points here for those staff that aren't sorting registers out with 7, 8, 9. Year 10 actually register down here. You might not know that. So on your in your fire drill, the next one you have, you will be not here anymore. You'll be down here on this lower, what was the old basketball court. Year 11 are on this bottom tennis courts here. Okay. Now, there are issues around that, and we'll get back to that in a moment. Location of first aid facilities. Well, I've already said to you that that is the first aid room there. So there's obviously first aid there. You will also find first aid in this point here. This is the science ground floor prep room. And we actually have, although we don't have trained first aiders, we've got a first aid kit in all 3 of these green rooms here. Don't confuse these green rooms here, right? It's just in those engineering workshops there. We've got a first aid kit in every workshop. We've also got an eye wash station in that room there. We don't have it in others, okay? Although we did have those little pouches that you can sterile eye wash kits in these first aid kits, so they need to be updated and changed, okay? So these are your first aid rooms. There's 3 there. There's the location of first aid, the science prep room, and obviously the first aid, the medical room in there, okay? So label those up, please. This is the routine for reporting a fire and improvements. Now, the routine for reporting a fire is that if you discover a fire, you would obviously tell somebody, you'd raise the alarm. You yourself, you're not trained to use fire extinguishers, so you wouldn't attempt to put the fire out yourself. You would raise that alarm and you would evacuate the building. Okay. If nobody raises the alarm, then a set amount of heat or a set amount of smoke in the workshop or anywhere really will be detected by the fire alarm on the ceiling. That will relay it to a switch panel in reception. You'll have a 20 or 30 second delay, or it might even be longer than that, I'm not too sure, to identify whether that is real or not, or whether there's a malfunction. And then the fire brigade are automatically called out, okay? And then you will exit the building, and Mrs. Williams will take over with regards to evacuation procedures, reporting the fire, logging any incidents, and making any improvements to that. Now, what I said to you before, and improvements, what changes need to be made? What do you guys think the issue will be of year 11 being maybe in the hall here and having a fire assembly point here? What is the issue of that to that? Okay. Also, to get down onto this basketball court here, this old basketball court, and the tennis court here, you've got a zigzag path there. Okay. What is the issue with pupils in 7, 8, or 9 possibly coming up onto this yard here, coming up that zigzag path as year 11 are trying to get down it, or year 10 and 11 are trying to get down it? Okay. So think about that and maybe write that in the improvement section there. What could you do to that zigzag path to make it better, to make it easier, to make reporting, logging and registering of those employees in this case easier? Okay. And that's all you've got to do for that PowerPoint. Okay. If you've got any questions on that, email me. Okay. Thank you.